Bhagavato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Bhagava araham samma sambuddho vichārana sammadho sugato lobhavidu anuttaro purissaddhammasārati sattva manusānam buddho bhagavati. Swagato bhagavata dhammo samyitiko vakariko ehipassiko opanayiko vacchatam viridhavo vinduniti. Supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka-sangho Supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka-sangho Nyāyapatipanno bhagavato sāvaka-sangho Samīcchipatipanno bhagavato sāvaka-sangho Yadidam cattari purisayugani atta purisapugala esam bhagavato sāvaka-sangho ahuneyo pahuneyo dakineyo anjarikaraneyo anuttaram punyakritam lokasati.
Mhm. Okay, good. Okay. For this evening's talk, I want to focus on um, the subjective side of meditation, and in particular on the manner of attention that we bring to our meditation practice. So this is something which is very subtle and which I think is easy to overlook or easy to. So whenever you have breathing mindfully, it's just a method. It's not what you're doing, it's the manner in which you're doing it. This is why a meditative lifestyle, a contemplative lifestyle, is one that vanishes, one that has no real essence. Because ultimately it isn't it. Meditation isn't something that's separate from other things. One of the phrases that I dislike in meditation terms, when people talk about meditation, is that people talk about meditation in daily life. I hate that. And what other kind of life do you have? Daily life as opposed to what, weekly life or I don't know, daily life. I feel like mindfulness is something that can be with us whatever we're doing. When we're walking, when we're talking, when we're eating, going to the toilet, putting clothes on, having a shower, entering the room, exiting the room. And we do all of these things, just like anybody else. I feel like somebody who's mindful can't really be necessarily picked out because look, they're doing these things. And there's nothing overt in the way that they do this, but they maybe do them a bit less than others. If we mindfully open the door, there's less, perhaps, less creaking, less blaming, less movement. We just open it, do the least we need to do. Same thing if we're mindfully eating. Whatever we're mindfully doing, it's sort of kind of the thing itself becomes a bit less. Even when we're breathing, the same thing. When we pay attention to our breathing, the breath becomes more soft. Perhaps the grossness of our world, the excesses of our world, the decadence of our world, because we lack the mindfulness to be able to do things just a little bit, just enough. Now we talk about being mindful in all the things we're doing and mindful in all of these activities and so on. And the Buddha said that mindfulness is like salt. It's tasty in every dish. Presumably he was excluding dessert. But maybe he just liked salted with desserts, I don't know. Point being that mindfulness is good everywhere. Even though mindfulness is good everywhere, it's not necessarily the same. Like it's not necessarily exactly the same quality of mind that we're bringing to these different things. But when we do them mindfully, we have in a way a sort of presence. We are there with what we're doing. And mindfulness helps us to knit the different moments and experiences that we have into a stream. It turns droplets into a stream. Mindfulness keeps us smooth. It's not so jagged. Mindfulness remembers what it is that we're doing, and it keeps on watching. We have this word in Pali, satipatthana. And satipatthana, oral satipatthana, has gone through a number of different translations over the years. So the word sati is the word we translate as mindfulness. Even that's controversial. Whole series of articles in recent years arguing about mindfulness, sati, mindfulness, memory. So sati has the idea of, the original meaning of sati is memory. And before the Buddha, or at least in pre-Buddhist texts that we have, it's always used in terms of memory. But it doesn't mean memory in the sense of like a particular memory that occurs to you in meditation, but rather it's memory as a faculty that grants us continuity with the past, present, and future. So if we memorize, for example, a text, perhaps a hymn or a mantra or a saying, and when we're reciting that, or singing it, or calling it to mind, that faculty of memory is doing a few different things. First thing it's doing is maintaining our presence through the different parts of that text. And you can even experience that when we're doing this short little chanting at the beginning here. If you know the passage, the Tipiso passage off by heart, you're chanting along, and then you get halfway through, and then you're like, which one are we in? Or you're doing like Supatipanno, Ujupatipanno, which one are we at now? But it's a lot easier if you're following, if you're the one leading the chanting, and then you get it wrong, then it's very embarrassing. I'm like, I've been a monk for all of these years, and I do the Ikipiso, and I miss one out. Bad, isn't it? Well, I feel embarrassed. Supposed to be a professional. But it happens, because sometimes your mindfulness goes, and then that continuity in your memory is not there. But mindfulness does more than just maintaining that continuity of memory in that sense, because it's also maintaining a continuity of memory with the past. Like that passage that we're reciting actually comes 2,500 years old. It's kind of amazing, isn't it? I think it's amazing. We're reciting these words that are 2,500 years old in the same language that they were spoken those days. And because the linguistic science in ancient India was incredible, we know with a high degree of confidence exactly how it's supposed to be pronounced. Fair enough, I probably do it with a bit of an Australian accent. But mostly, it's pretty much the same as it would have been 2,500 years ago. And so mindfulness, in a way, is connecting the past, present, and the future. It's knitting them together. It knits consciousness into a whole. Think about what happens if mindfulness goes. What happens when we forget? We don't really realize how important it is to remember until we forget. And back in those days, memory was the way that culture was handed down. Hymns were sung, stories were told, lessons were given, and the student would memorize them, and they'd be passed down from teacher to student. What happens when we forget? And we live today in a world where we're playing these strange games with memory. Like on the one hand, because we preserve the past in a digital format, past is no longer fuzzy. It's just there. And if you're on Facebook and Facebook says, this is what you were doing 10 years ago, and you see a photo 10 years, just like it was yesterday. And you remember, oh, that's what I was doing 10 years ago. That's what I looked like. And then you remember, oh yeah, I was going to delete my Facebook. It's funny, I think this the way that we've changed memory by preserving it digitally is much more subtle and profound than we usually notice. But the other thing that we're doing with memory today is that we're erasing memory by having too much of it. The truth is not disappearing into the mist of the past, it's disappearing in the fog of lies. And the merchants of lies increasingly, like the presence of the truth is becoming less of a problem for the merchants of lies. It's okay if there's a droplet of truth, because we can just produce another ocean of lies. And who will be able to find that droplet anyway? And we're forgetting our own past, or we're remembering it in two sharp ways. We're forgetting what the past means. And we're experiencing a moment of disjunction, where the past and the future have an unstable relationship, an unpredictable relationship. Now that instability of the present is something that is all too apparent to any meditator. And when we sit down to meditate, one of the most overwhelming things is how unstable the mind is. And the Buddha teaches us about impermanence, teaches us about suffering, teaches us about not self, that you can't control things. And then we go, oh, that's great. Yes, impermanence, suffering, not self, that's great. Then I'm going to sit and meditate. And my mind is impermanent. And it's full of suffering. And I can't control anything. And we think, what's wrong? What did I do wrong? Because my mind is impermanent and it's suffering and it's not self. I have to go to Bhante and ask him, how do I make my mind permanent and happy and under my control? And then you're all so disappointed when you come to see me. And you say, oh, my mind's been out of control and I can't do this. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, yeah. So think about how this idea of mindfulness works in the context of breath meditation. So for this evening's talk, I'm going to talk a little bit about breath meditation, not about like how to do it necessarily, but because I think most of you have done the breath meditation, but more just some reflections on it. When we are breathing, each breath has its own individual quality. Not just each breath has its own individual quality, but the quality of the breath changes even in one breath. And when we pay attention to our breathing, we can feel there's quite a complexity to that experience. Like we can feel a coolness to it. We can feel a movement to it. We can feel a roughness to it or a smoothness to it. We can feel all these different qualities to that breath. Sometimes we can't even watch a single breath all the way in. Start watching it and then a mind drifts. Or maybe we watch one breath and the next and then a mind drifts. So this is a lack of mindfulness. That's what lack of mindfulness means. If we have mindfulness, we will be watching continually. So sato vasasati sato vasasati. And we're seeing, the breath coming in and out. Mindfulness knits all of these breaths together, creates something whole, something continuous. That's a funny thing, when we're talking about these things, we think of them in a, like I find that we tend to think of them in this kind of sometimes we use this reductive language when we're talking about meditation. People will say something like, I use the breath as an anchor. Or like, meditation is a tool. These kinds of language, mechanistic, reductive. Your breath isn't a tool. Your breath is your life. Your breath is the spirit of awakening. Your breath is the golden path that leads you from suffering to liberation. It's not something you use. It's something that elevates you. In the translation of Satipatthana, I already talked about how mindfulness sometimes also means memory, or has that dimension of memory. But the second element of the word, patthana, is also, or upatthana, is also been controverted. Earlier translations in English translated it as foundations of mindfulness. But that's actually a mistranslation from assuming that the root is patthana. In fact, the root is upatthana, which means establishing, establishing mindfulness, setting up of mindfulness, perhaps focusing on mindfulness. But the tricky one, I'm asking you to empathize with the sufferings that I go through with the translation. Without translating, you just have to pick one word. When I'm giving a Dhamma talk, I can reflect about it, it's fine. See, if I say the establishment of mindfulness, okay, does that give you the connotation of nursing? I don't think so, right? We've got a few nurses here tonight, haven't we? Yes, the nurses, awesome. What a great thing to do with your life. Just looking after people, taking care of people. So this is one of the meanings of upatthana, is to nurse, to take care of. It literally means to stand close by. It's the literal meaning. So to attend to, yeah? So to attend to mindfulness, take care of mindfulness. It gives us a different nuance, different way of thinking of it. I think that in our, this is a bit like what I was talking about this morning. I was talking about using love to translate metta. I think that in our modern meditation language, we have tried to be scientific and translate things in a way that are scientific. And I think that's one side of it, but I think that there's a caring and nurturing side to it, which is sometimes overlooked. So mindfulness, when we're being mindfulness of the breath, when we're being mindful of the breath, we're not merely observing it, but in a sense we're taking care of it, or there's a relationship of care with the breath. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the language that we use to talk about meditation. Because I think that we often underestimate how much our meditation is shaped by the language we use. You see, I often hear people talking about meditation in terms of like, oh, this method or that school or this practice or that practice. Fine. But the way that people talk about those different practices, like the grammar is always the same. And I'm not quite sure how different they are. So what do I mean by that? So I'm going to describe the grammar of meditation a little bit. Okay, so here's come, here's your breath. Okay? This is your meditation object, right? Have people heard about the word meditation object before? Right? Okay. So you know meditation. People talk about meditation objects all the time. So this is an object. It's my breath. Fine. Now I'm going to try to concentrate on my breath. Okay? I'm going to sit here. I'm going to go try, concentrate. I'm going to try to focus on the breath. Okay? Nice. Good. Everything's fine. Meditation's perfect. We pack up, we go home. Everything's good. Except when we try to focus on the breath, usually what happens? You end up focusing on anything else. Mind goes off here, there, everywhere. And especially, you get all these very annoying thoughts. So here am I trying to focus on the breath, and all of these thoughts come in and disturb me and distract me from meditation. Right? Something like that. So some of you are nodding, and some of you have been to my retreat before. So you know where this is going. Anyway, so breath, I'm here, I'm watching the breath, and the thoughts are coming in. Okay, so this is what I mean when I'm talking about like the grammar of meditation. Right, we talk about a meditation object, a bit like an object in grammar, like in syntactically, the object is the accusative, and it's that which the verb is pointing to. So so the verb here is I'm concentrating on my breath, right? So concentrating or focusing or something on my breath. I is the subject, concentrating is the verb, breath is the accusative, the object. But that's not the grammar that the Buddha was using. We just talked about that, right? The Buddha talked about meditation as an adverb, right? Sato astasati, mindful when breathed in, mindful when breathed out. It's different, isn't it? It's a different feel to it. Let's have a look more closely what's happening. So first of all, breath is my meditation object. Okay? Rubbish. The breath isn't an object. What are you talking about? How are we, like breath is a process of life. It's an activity. It's a behavior. Yes. It's an energy. Yes. It's a flow. Yes. It's not an object. Why did we start thinking about breath as an object? It's kind of weird when you think about it. Like when we use the word object, we mean an object is something that exists objectively, right? What else can it mean, right? When I say that this cup is an object, what I mean is that when I walk out of the room, it's still there, right? Therefore, psychologists they use the word object means that for a child growing up, they can recognize something that's outside of their field of sight still exists. That's what it means for something to be an object. And we're not talking philosophically here, okay? So no kind of Zen trees falling in forests and who's there to hear it and all of that kind of stuff, right? I'm not getting all metaphysical. I'm just being very down, straightforward, psychological. An object is something that exists independently of the observer. But your breath is obviously not an object. It doesn't exist independently of the observer. So what happens is now the breath is our object and I'm paying attention to it. Great. I'm focusing on it. Bit of a struggle, bit of a hassle. Mind keeps wandering. Who is the I? Who is the I that's focusing on the breath? Right? So think about this. I am me, right? And me am, sorry, I'm getting mixed up now. I am me, and me am the 5 aggregates. Right? Me are the 5 aggregates. Anyway. I've got like physical dimensions, I've got affective dimensions, like the feeling. For those of you who don't know, the 5 aggregates is the form or the body, material dimension, feelings, perception, intentions, and consciousness. Okay? And these are wonderful descriptions of what makes us up, what is Buddhism. And so I've got all of these different parts of who I am sitting here. So I've now slided one of those off, put it out there. I'm saying this is the object. I'm paying attention. Like, how can I be focusing on that object if it's actually me? I've actually separated it out. I'm feeling the object is me. So if I'm watching the object, who is I? Who is the one who's doing the meditation? So the one who's doing the meditation is the good one. Right? Not the naughty one. Naughty people don't meditate. Right? When you come in here to meditate, you're like, oh, I'm good. I came in here a little bit before the talk and just popped my head in, and there are all these people sitting here meditating. And that's what I thought. I thought, oh, isn't that good to see all these people sitting there meditating? It's really good. So when we come into meditation comes from a wholesome intention. So I'm the one who's meditating. I'm the good one. Right? So I'm in here. I'm the good one meditating. I'm paying attention. So on and so forth. But then there's all these thoughts happening. Anyone have thoughts happening in their meditation? Yes? Yes? Thank goodness for that. I mean, for a start, if you didn't, then meditation teachers would be right out of the job. So that's excellent. Okay, so you're having thoughts going on, right? But these thoughts are kind of funny because the thoughts I have in meditation, they often feel kind of oddly disconnected from us. Like when I hear people talk about them, that all of these thoughts are coming in, or these thoughts were distracting me, right? So think about like the grammar of that again, like thoughts were distracting me. Who is the me that's being distracted by the thought? Well, obviously it's the good one, right? Because it can't be me who's having those thoughts, because those thoughts are none. Those thoughts are me. Those thoughts are, oh, I couldn't even tell you what that was. Those thoughts are, who would think such a thought? Oh my God. Open your eyes quietly, look around. Nobody noticed, okay. So that can't be me because I'm the good one. See? And so we've actually lined off a breath to create the object of the breath. We've spiced up another part of ourselves to separate ourselves from the thoughts, which can't be us because we're good and the thoughts are not good. So therefore, we're now in a rather complex situation where various bits of us have been sliced off. And then we're trying to find oneness. And we're like, oh, it's really hard to find wholeness. And every time we get a little bit close to finding wholeness, we chop ourselves off again. What if, and I'm just throwing this out there, okay? What if that was unnecessary? What if we didn't have to start meditation by having an object to start? What if we didn't have to be the observer? What if meditation wasn't anything at all? What if it was just the manner in which we did it? Breathing mindfully, mindfully breathing in, mindfully breathing out. Doesn't that sound a bit easier? So this whole language, this whole grammar, way that we're thinking about meditation, it to some degree constructs the experience that we have when we meditate. And it creates the problems that we are trying to overcome through our meditation. Now, I'm not saying, and just to be clear, I'm not saying that that way of talking about things is completely wrong or that it's responsible for all of our problems in meditation. Right? I'm just saying that it's a way of using language. That's all. And that if we look at it from another point of view, then you can actually approach meditation in a much simpler way. One of the things that this implies is that the thoughts aren't things that happen to us, but the thoughts are the things that we do. Thoughts are a behavior. And if thoughts are a behavior, then in a way that's bad because we have to take responsibility for it. But in a way also that's good because if it's something we're doing, then we can stop doing it. And what if, just throwing another idea out there, what if you could just stop thinking? I just did it. It's easy. You just stop. What if stopping thinking was as easy as stopping walking? What if stopping thinking was as easy as stopping doing the washing up? What if you could just not think? Because thinking is something that you're doing. So this idea that we create, in a sense, we create our own self, our own identity as a person. Who then becomes the victim of our thought. Someone who our thoughts happen to. The Buddha's teaching is very subtle and very profound. And it demands total honesty and integrity. Those thoughts, every last one of them, they come from you. And you can't blame anyone else for them. No matter what your experiences are, no matter what lies behind you, the reality is that right now, in the present, you are thinking those thoughts, just as you are speaking words. And you can stop speaking. You are thinking thoughts, and you can stop thinking. In fact, not only can we stop thinking, but we do. In fact, I would say that we stop thinking all the time. We just don't notice it because we're only interested in the thought. Like if you walk into a room, you walk into this room through this door and you say, oh, there's all these people in this room. Because that's what you're interested in. Do you ever walk into a room like this and think, oh, how much space there is? I mean, look, objectively, there's a lot more space here than there is people. And it's the space that makes it possible for the people to live. None of us would be alive in here without the space. I mean, if you wrapped this whole room in a plastic bag and did it like a vacuum seal thing, pulled out all the air, squashed everybody into one big human lump with all the space taken out, we wouldn't last very long at all. And it would not be a pleasant way to go. We can only live because of the space. It's the same thing in your mind. Actually, your mind can only function because of the space. Because of the space in between the thoughts. So you see, when I'm talking here this evening, I'm leaving large spaces between the words. Why is that? Because it makes things sound more profound. I could say the same talk like really fast to get it over with in 20 minutes. And then I slow it down and leave long spaces. But it's true though. When words have space, they take on more meaning. True. When thoughts have more space in your mind, those thoughts have more meaning. Fewer thoughts, but more meaningful thoughts. The same thing with words. When you're talking with people, if you're just blah, 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 blah all the time, nothing has any meaning. But if you say a few words chosen at the right time, it's very meaningful. So those spaces are happening in your mind. And they are giving meaning to the words that you have, to the thoughts that you have, to the emotions that you have, to the memories, everything that you have. In fact, I believe that one way of describing something like a psychosis is when all of the space is removed from your mind. Everything is just happening all at once, no break in between, mashed all as one. So we have space in our mind, a lot of it, but we just don't notice it. We only watch the thoughts. We only think the thoughts matter. And then we say, oh, how come we keep thinking all the time? You might as well ask, how come I stop thinking? Because that's the reality. You stop thinking all the time. And when people are meditating and they want to know about meditation, the number one thing they want is, how do I stop thinking? But you're already doing that all the time. What you really want to ask is, how do I not start? Right? It's a bit like giving up cigarettes. Easy. I've done it dozens of times. Started out this talk by referring to the fact that the Buddha talked about impermanence, suffering, not self, the 3 marks of existence. And how when we see these things in our meditation, we perceive them as a wrongness. Our mind shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be impermanent and changing all the time. It should be nice and still. It shouldn't be suffering. We shouldn't have anxieties and despair and all of those things. We should be happy. It shouldn't be out of our control. It should be ourself. But actually, that's a rightness. That's how it should be. That's normal. So when we are watching the breath, the perception of the breath, perception of breathing is, of course, impermanent. Each breath is different than the last. Each one is changing. Now, things are always impermanent, but the rate, the nature, the quality of that impermanence changes. So as we breathe mindfully, as we stop disturbing things start to come to an end. And they start to stop. And they start to stop by themselves. Nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with the meditation method. Nothing to do with how long you've been sitting on the meditation cushion. Nothing to do with anything else except for the one simple fact that they are conditioned. They have to stop. All things are conditioned, they're still in it. The happiness you experience in meditation is the happiness of what happens when things come to an end. And you experience that. It's a blissful, peaceful, content feeling. So nice. So since we are here in Belgium in the middle of winter, and we are experiencing snow outside, and I thought I might warm you up with a story about Australia. Is that all right? Can I do that? You won't feel too jealous? No? It's okay? By the way, like, you're welcome. If you want to come to Australia, we're a big and friendly country, so you're welcome to come and visit us. Don't worry about the snakes and the spiders. They're not nearly as bad as people think. I mean, you don't you don't see them that often. I mean, you do see them on a daily basis. They're like in your bed on a daily basis. Okay, yes, but not every day. One. How long were you in Australia for?
2 years.
See? It's like 1 in 600. Okay, fair enough. They can kill you. It must be there. I mean, yeah. Australians do like to tell stories about snakes and things like that, but this is not a story about those things. This is a story about heat. So, Australia gets hot in the summertime, and because of climate change, obviously it gets hotter. And the hottest day that we've had in Sydney, in fact, the hottest day that I've ever experienced, was about 47 degrees. So 47 degrees is very hot. And I was staying at the Buddhist library at that time in Sydney. And Buddhist library is in an old warehouse building, and the air conditioning is broken down, obviously. And so, yeah, 47 degrees, all you can do is like wander around going, wow, it's really hot. It's like, you know, all your brain functions just sort of shut off, and you just go into survival mode. 47 in Sydney is getting kind of to the edge. Like once it starts getting much hotter than that, things start to sort of break down really badly. You know, like the rail lines will buckle, the roads will melt, electricity crashes. In Sydney, you have hundreds of thousands of fruit bats that live in the trees. They live in these huge colonies. Seriously, if you go around Sydney, some certain places in Sydney around dusk, it's like you're in a Batman movie. Awesome, kind of covered with these big clouds of bats. Once it gets to around 47, 48, 49, they drop dead out of the trees. Yeah, didn't quite happen that time, but it happened further north in other colonies. So all of these unexpected consequences of extreme heat. Anyway, so this is a little parable which is inspired by that day. So in this parable, 47 degrees, and you're working in an office, and everything's going wrong, and all the systems are breaking down, and the air conditioning doesn't work, and everyone's getting a mite titchy. And at the end of the day, feeling kind of stressed, and your friend says to you, why don't we go for a walk on the beach? You say, oh, that's lovely. So you go down to the beach. And Australian beaches are beautiful. White sand. Sydney beaches are very nice. So on this day, you go down to the beach and you're becoming cool a little bit. It's not cool, it's not cool, it's just a bit less warm. And there's a gentle breeze that's coming in from the ocean. Just wafting in, it's so nice. And the waves are like very soft coming in the ocean, gentle. You take your shoes off and walk on your bare feet down the wet sand. No, there's no snakes on the beach. Okay? Now, fair enough, okay? If this was in Darwin, then you would have crocodiles and blue ring octopus, which is the world's most deadly octopus, and box jellyfish, which is the world's most deadly jellyfish, and so on. But this is in Sydney. Sorry, I'm just recollecting some of the stories which one of our Nagarikas, Kim, used to tell about life in Northern Territory. Were you around when Kim was there? Kim was in the army in the Northern Territory? No, he used to tell us. He was also a tourist guide at Kakadu National Park in the Northern Territory. he was at this resort one, and this German man rushed into the to the reception in the resort, and he was like distressed and just like completely distraught. And he said to the man at the counter, said, excuse me, there is a crocodile eating a horse in the car park. In the car park, there is a crocodile eating a horse. The man at the reception said, so what do you want me to do? Crocs eat the horses, mate. Let's leave them alone. Anyway, I can guarantee you that if you're in Sydney, you will rarely see crocodiles eating horses. Seriously, it hardly ever happens. Anyway, but what were you back to my attempt at telling a peaceful and dignified story. But by the way, the Dhamma message in that previous story about the crocodile, there's not one, just in case you want to post a funny story about it. Yeah, moving back, and our friends are going for a walk on the beach, they're feeling nice, and they sit down on the beach. And everything is so nice. Moon is coming over, reflecting on the water. Unfortunately, one of the two friends was meditating. Yes. So when they sat down on the beach, they're like, I can use this as a chance to use the waves as my meditation object. So one wave coming in, one wave going out, one wave coming in. No, hang on, that's two waves coming. What's what we're doing? Okay, start again. One wave going in, one wave going, two waves coming in, two waves. Oh, where was I? Okay, starting again. One wave coming in, one wave going in. And after a while, the other friend says, you know what? It's peaceful here. And then you say, just can't seem to focus my mind. Just can't seem to make my mind peaceful. So I don't know if that's you in your meditation. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But I think it's probably most of us sometime. And we think that it's our job to make ourselves peaceful by doing the meditation. And this is a very worldly way of thinking. Input, output, key performance indicators, maximizing efficiency, right? And we've got to get all these things done. It's not how meditation works. In meditation, you enter into a peaceful space. Your breath wants you to be peaceful. Your breath is calming you down. Your breath is taking care of you. And so when we're meditating, it's not that I'm doing something to get some result, but I'm entering into a relationship of care with my caring. I'm caring for my breath, and my breath is caring for me. And with each breath, you are being soothed. Your anxiety is being taken away. Your distress is being alleviated. Not because you have some special trick to go around catching all of these thoughts that somehow happen to you and stopping them. No. Because you're peaceful. Because you're content. Don't worry so much about all the thoughts that's happening. Don't worry so much about the changes in your moods or the feelings in your body or the different experiences that you're having in meditation. All of those things. All those things are fine. They're just humanity. They're telling you that you're alive. It's all right. It's good. It's good to be alive. It's good to have feelings. It's good to have thoughts. Thoughts are really useful. But you are not powerless. Actually, you are the one that has the power. Because when all of those thoughts disappear, and all of those feelings have been given, and when your mind is the one, and when your mindfulness is flowing, then you will remain clear, aware, knowing. That's when your meditation starts in earnest. So don't be meditating by trying to resist impermanence, by trying to fight against suffering, by trying to eliminate not self. This is the path of meditation. These are the things that are helping you. Everything that's happening in your meditation is going to end. Doesn't matter what you do about it. You can have some fantasy, some ideas, some moods, some ideas, some narratives, some stories, some memories, whatever. And you can say to yourself, I'm going to keep thinking this, I'm going to keep this alive, I'm going to keep on going. And then a few minutes later, you've forgotten. And you're like, hang on, I've got to get it back again. They're all going to end. Everything that's happened is going to end. Just be peaceful with it. Be patient. And remember, the mindfulness is the continuity. It keeps that awareness. So sato anasasati, sato pasati, pasasati. Mindful when breathe in, mindful when breathe in. There's a few words for you this evening on mindfulness of breathing, and particularly on how we can cultivate an attitude of care and acceptance and patience with meditation, rather than an attitude of control. So I offer that to you for this evening, and I'd be interested if anyone has any questions or thoughts about the talk. Yeah.
I think I'm a bit confused with where we started with some of this
Sure.
with regards to thoughts. Maybe you may have said that you can control your thoughts and stop your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, stopping thoughts is not really controlling. It's just not doing them. Yeah, but go on.
Yeah, so I understood that stopping thoughts is intrusive control.
Yeah, okay. So, well, I would say the difference is this, that if you, like if the thoughts are there and you stop them, then you're controlling them, right? But if you don't think them, that's not really controlling them.
So then I can get which challenge, such as what can I say, like form and form. And it goes through feeling, perception, mental, and I understood that to talk about the sort of nature of these things being not self, so it was happen to you. Like for example, if something like this feeling, if I was in a particular room of pain and an event occurred, like then this may began all of that chain. And then that makes some case.
No, not at all. They do not spontaneously. They arise because you make them. Yeah, that's exactly the point that I was trying to get at with that talk. Yeah, that's how a lot of people think about it. Things happen because we make them happen in the present. Yes, of course, there are conditions from the past, but those conditions from the past are not determining the present. Okay, so think of thoughts as being like zombies. Right? You're nodding. Does that mean you understand?
No.
No. Yeah, good.
I
didn't think so. I didn't think so. Good. So thoughts are like zombies, right? Thoughts are like zombies. Why? Because the idea that we have in our mind is that zombies, like from the past, right? Thoughts of the past will like rise up out of their grave. Oh, by the way, just like while I'm giving this little story, I just want to just check, are there any zombies present in the audience tonight? Like I wouldn't want to say that anything is insensitive to our people. Where no, they have. I mean, the whole kind of clawing your way out of a grave thing would seem to be a good thing. But I don't know. Yeah, we all have to make time to our hearts. It's good to be anyway. So we think that that the past of all of these conditions are like zombies that are clawing their way out of their grave, and they're coming together and they want to eat our brain. Like literally, they're like eating our brains in a meditation, right? But zombies have no power, actually. Only in our fears do they have power. The dead just lie there. They're just still in their graves, and they've decomposed, and they're dust, and the only thing that's there is bone. So if those bones are going to attack us, it's only because you're a weirdo who sneaks out in the middle of the night into the graveyard with a shovel and digs up those bones, pulls them out, and then hits yourself over the head with them, going, oh no, the zombies are attacking me. Zombies are attacking me. How can I stop this zombie war? It's us in the present who are giving life to these things by themselves. They're in the past.
And how do we choose one particular grave, one particular memory, or one particular effort?
So how do we choose a grave to go and dig up in the middle of the night? By your fears. Which one you're most afraid of? Your fears and your desires. The ones that you think about all the time, the ones that you're attached to, they're the ones that you go to, right? These are the fear, these are the moments from the past that keep coming back to us, the ones that have scarred us, moments of violence, moments of trauma, moments of fear, right? Or the things that happen that we really like, people that we loved or lost. So all of these things that have some kind of emotional charge, right? But that emotional charge is present now. And that's why we go and dig them. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you say we should control them, or if they don't have power anymore, just watch them and let them grow? Why should we control them?
Right.
It's a lot of effort.
Right. Why would we control them? It's a lot of effort. Yes, that's true. And like you can try to this the thing, you can try to control your thought, but then the thought's going to go away in a minute anyway. So you're just running around after them, and then there's going to be a new one. Right? It's like a room full of kids or something like that. You could tell one to shut up, but then the next one's doing something. So what do? Well, there's a number of ways of doing it. I'm not a mum, school teacher, so I don't really know. But one of the things you can do with kids, if they're running around in the room and they're yelling and they're screaming, telling them to sit down and shut up is usually not very successful as a long-term strategy. But that's what people do in their meditation, try to stop those thoughts, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. A much better strategy is to tell the kids to go and play in the park. Yeah. So for any younger people here, let me just explain. Park is an open place. And in the old days, children were trusted to go and play in those parks and have fun. Yes, like it's crazy, right? And we can even do that without having electronic devices with us. Oh, shocking. And so we would just go and mess around and have fun. We would run around and scream and make noises and climb up trees and throw things at each other and get into fights and all that kind of great stuff. And it was okay because you're in the park, you're in a big space. So the same thing in your mind, rather than trying to stop all the thoughts, why don't you make your mind a bigger place? And if your mind is vast, it's a smaller thing. There's just a little ripple, and they'll go away soon. The point is that those thoughts are always something that we're making. We're creating. And then you create the thought, and then you create an anti-thought to stop that thought. I'll give you another parable. Okay, here's another. Try to convey a meaning, the Buddha said. Simile can help to convey the meaning. So a man was walking along the path, and then in the forest, and then there was a pool in the forest, and there was another man in the pool in the forest who was stomping around in this pool of water, stomping around like this, and flapping the pool of water with his hand, stepping, splashing, flapping water, exhausting himself. What is he doing? What is going on? You saw the man going around flapping, and after a while he said, "Excuse me, good sir, I was just wondering what it is that you're doing there." He said, "Well, I'm trying, you see the water here, I'm muddy. I'm trying to push the mud down at the bottom of the pond. So we have a nice clean pond." He said, "Really? Oh. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. That's very kind of you. You can push the mud down to the bottom of the pond, and then all of us can enjoy a clear pond. That's good." He says, "But you've been working so hard. Can we just kind of do something for you?" He says, "Sure." He says, "Well, let's just collect some sticks." They collect some sticks. They lit a little fire. They got a kettle. They boiled some water, and they made a cup of tea. He said, "Oh, let's drink the cup of tea." And they looked back, and the pond was nice and clear. Have a magic pond clearing method for making a cup of tea. So the things that we're doing to stop the mind from thinking are just more things. It's more action. It's action and reaction. So instead, we just let it go. Instead of fighting each one, we just let them come up, let them go down. Okay, just be patient. Relax, enjoy your cup of tea. For me, the definition of a meditation method is what you do in order to distract yourself from the meditation. Your meditation is going to happen anyway as long as you stop messing around with your mind. So we give you a meditation method which is going to try to ensure that you do minimal damage. Okay? Minimal damage. And behind the scenes, your mind fixes itself. I don't know if you've had that experience, but to me, this happens quite a lot in meditation. You're sitting there, meditate, thinking of this, blah, 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 meditate, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you turn around. Actually, my mind feels really full of all this stuff. How did that happen? It just kind of sneaks up on you. The peace of the mind is a natural state. It's not something that you make. And it's natural for your mind to be distraught and upset and messy. And it's equally natural for your mind to be clear and bright and full of pleasure and happiness. Any more questions?
We talk about objective meditation.
Yes.
And especially about the Asma.
All right. Yeah.
Do we need to focus about the words, or
Okay.
do we need to like imagine and practice meditation? What is the method?
Sure. So the question is about doing the Subha Bhavana, about the method for doing that. That's connotation on the unbeautiful aspects of body. Obviously, I can't give like a kind of too detailed detailed teaching on that. But basically, those kinds of meditations are usually done both by knowing and seeing. In other words, both by physically feeling those parts of your body, as well as by the power of imagination visualizing. And how you proceed then depends on the meditator. And different meditators will proceed in different ways because their faculties are better, stronger in different dimensions. But ultimately, there's a kind of a knowing that comes with the like union of both the felt sense as well as the imaginative sense. And that's where like the nimitta or the clear idea of those parts come together. Yeah. So the answer is yes. Okay, Anna.
My question was related to our thoughts are your own. Now it's not really to meditation really, but I just got curious. Is there any Buddhist perspective on that sometimes the two people have at the exact same time the same thought? You know, in yoga circles you have terminology for this or whatever.
What's the terminology?
I mean, some kind of, it's manomaya kosha, so then you're related to
Again?
manomaya kosha is the
Right.
thought, the shit on the body. So what? So close people sometimes, and it happens. It's not so rare that suddenly, oh, I just want, I was just say about this something other.
Right.
So is there anything?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, so the question was about when two people have the same thought at the same time, and in yoga theory that this is explained with the manomaya kosha, the mind-made sheath, literally. Actually, have the same, almost the same term in Buddhism, the mind-made body, which basically has a similar kind of meaning. And I'm actually going to talk more about that later on in the retreat. So that's actually a really interesting topic, and I'll talk more about it later on. It'd be interesting to get your thoughts on that as well, because I haven't really studied like the Manomaya Kosha very much, so I'm not really sure exactly how, whether it's exactly the same or not, but it certainly seems similar. Anyway, so the idea of people that are thinking the same thought, that's not something that's really discussed in Buddhist texts as far as I know, but I think it's in harmony with the way that we think about like what a person is and how minds work. So basically in Buddhism, mind energies and fields and networks is how we think about things, right? So your mind is a network of all of this different stuff happening, and it interacts and exists together with your body, which has also got its own interdependent networks of things that are happening. Now, networks tend to have fuzzy edges, right? And they tend to be like waves. Yeah? And so it's kind of hard to define where it begins and where it ends. And that's obvious even like on a physical sense. Like you can say, well, where does your physical body end? You say, well, it ends on the skin, but then what about your hair? Well, okay, it ends on the skin and then the hair. But then also we have like a felt sense of our body, which extends beyond that, right? If someone stands too close to us, we're feeling like, oh, actually you're in a personal space. So there's a kind of fuzziness to our idea of like what is us and what is outside us. My personal belief, and it's not necessarily anything from Buddhist text or anything like that, but my personal belief is that we are, that the energies that constitute our mind and body are interacting with each other all the time. And I think that we have these kind of fields that are kind of distinct in the sense that they're organized around like a center, like a person. What we call a person is a center around which these fields is organized. We give that name of person. But then it's kind of interacting with others around, like a magnetic field or something is interacting. And obviously that's going to be amplified if you're on the same wavelength as that other person, or if there's some shared experience. And it's especially going to be amplified if you're doing a lot of meditation and your mind is much more sensitive. And that means your boundary is going to be more open and you're going to be more sensitive to those others. And I think that some people are very, I think we all perceive these things to some degree, but some people are much more sensitive at it than others. And when we're meditating, when we talk about like developing the psychic powers or being able to read someone's mind or something like that, I think it's really just building on that same sense. It's not actually something separate or different. It's just the ordinary fact that we are not entirely separate from each other. And that is developed because we have more sensitivity in meditation. So I'll tell you, can I tell you a story about that? So someone told me this story that happened. They were living in a shared house with this couple, and they got into the habit, they'd have breakfast together, and over breakfast they would share their dreams if they had any dreams the night before. And it's just like a fun little thing that they did in breakfast together as a household. And so anyway, one time this person had a dream, they got up, and then in the dream, they said, oh, they saw the husband, where the couple was talking to this other person, this other woman. And as soon as they said that, then the wife shot a glance to the husband, and he sort of went silent. And they later got divorced because what they'd seen had actually happened, and it wasn't just the innocent chat that they assumed it was. So just be careful about that one. So yeah, I do believe these things happen, and I think that they happen probably more than we notice. Yeah. Another study, like this idea of the kind of the waves of time and consciousness, I think is really interesting. There was another study, and look, I don't know how much to believe they're doing these studies, okay? But when we dream, we sometimes dream of things that happened in the past, right? So the past, in a way, links into the present of the dream space, which we think is normal, right? But then sometimes maybe we also dream of things happening in the future, right? So I think that kind of wave is kind of opening up. So the study looked into that and they said, okay, we'll look at what's happened in the past 24 hours and the next 24 hours, and we'll see how often things that people dream about correlate with something in the past 24 hours, and how often they correlate with something in the next 24 hours. And they found, to their surprise, that it was about the same. That we dream of the future about the same amount that we dream of the past. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So it kind of suggests that the idea of the present is not as fixed as we think it is, and that we actually live in a more smeared out, fuzzy time. And the idea of the present is somehow constructed by our consciousness. And if you like talking about consciousness and time and so on, I'm going to be doing some more of that later on in the retreat as well. So yeah, we should get there eventually. But anyway, so the simple answer, yeah. I haven't exactly the same thought. You had a question before? Yes.
I really like when you talk about awareness of mindfulness. I teach mindfulness.
Oh, good. Congratulations. That's awesome. No, it's really fantastic. I think that in the Buddhist community there is so much wisdom, and so many people have so much to share. That always just makes me so happy when you get to share.
I have many times people who in a lot of anxiety, hyperventilation, and they don't see that as something that they have to take care of. And so how can I?
Nice. Okay. So for people who are like that, who are suffering from anxiety, hyperventilation, panic attacks is another one, and a variety of things like that, then I would say, generally speaking, mindfulness of breathing is counterindicated. Okay? Doesn't mean that they can't do it. They can try it out, but often it might exacerbate those things. Okay? For those people, objects are good for exactly the same reason that objects are bad. So I would recommend maybe trying what they call casino meditation. We have like a literal physical object, and just a kind of historical sidebar. I think the reason why we talk about a meditation object is because in the Theravada meditation manual, Suddhimagga, the first meditation is the earth casino, which is an object. It's a literal disc of earth, which you use as an object to meditate on. And so this is where I think that language of using object actually comes from. But anyway, that's just a bit of a sidebar. So the breath isn't an object because it doesn't exist objectively, but the earth casino is an object. And so you make a disc of earth or a disc of clay, and then you can focus on that. Or you can focus on water, right? Or air, or fire. Right? And on a very beautiful or pure color. Yeah, it's something that's external to you. Honestly, the best way, if anyone who's like that, always to me, the best way is to be in nature, to contemplate the elements in nature, and to sit beside a lake and to feel the calm of the water of the lake, right? If you can, that's the best. Yeah. And so those kinds of meditations, they take you out of that anxiety-ridden body, and they can bring you some peace and some ease. When you have some peace and some ease, then you can work on re-establishing a wholesome relationship with the breath. But not in a hurry, very gradually. And so they're these kind of specialized cases that it's, I think, really important to take the care to work with somebody individually to find what they're going to do. There's somebody on my last retreat who had similar kind of issues like tensions and contractions in their body. And I'm like, okay, great, we'll do some casino meditation. You just get something and you just watch it. It's like, great, except I get contractions in my eyes. Oh, okay, it was a challenge. And so with him, it was really interesting. So what we did eventually, I got him to go outside and just sit on the ground, just feeling the ground, feeling the earth element of the ground. And then he could do that. And he was like, I can't believe that. I'm trying to meditate for so long, I've never been able to do it before. And now I can just feel that earth, feel that connection with that earth element. It feels so peaceful. And yes.
You have been talking about the Satipatthana.
Yes.
We really used to talk about one very small breath.
Right.
Not even a breath.
Just a couple of words, yeah.
Yeah. Trying to understand all the explanation you have given. I realized that for a long time I thought the instruction or guidance there was to focus, like if the goal is to focus entirely. But now I'm very sure.
Now you're lost, drifting in a sea of unknowing. Is that right? Excellent. So my job here is done.
Yes,
Don't think of it as like one way of talking about it is right or one way is wrong. But think about it as just like a different way of reflecting on the meditation thought. And just maybe just don't. If you try to sort of work it out, it won't really mean much. But when you try meditating, then just think about some of those things that I was saying, and just see if you can introduce those perspectives in your meditation. So you maybe say, okay, rather than trying to keep in the language that you use there, right? Same thing, I'm going to focus on the breath. Yeah. So instead of focus on the breath, then think, oh, how about I let the breath take care of me? See what that feels like. Yeah. Ah, nice. Breath's taking care of me. Yeah. Let's see what that's like. Yeah.
I have heard more than I have read. Is it true that only in Satipatthana where the meditation is described, or where instructions?
No, not at all. No. The meditation talked about in hundreds of suttas, hundreds of discourses. Maybe this Satipatthana Sutta is one of the larger ones that talks about meditation in detail. But no, and there's nothing really unique about the Satipatthana Sutta, like all of the practices there are also found in other places. The Buddhist suttas are massively redundant. They like repeat themselves all the time. Yeah, this is a preservation mechanism. Right? Lots of copying in case one is lost. It's very rare that you find anything interesting in one place. Actually, that's almost a guideline when reading the suttas or interpreting the suttas. If you find something only in one place, then that's probably a good sign that it's not necessarily that important. The Buddha was teaching for 45 years and he taught the important things many times. And so sometimes there might be teachings that are like one-off teachings to a particular person or in a particular context or for a particular reason, and that can give you a new perspective on it. But, you know, it wasn't the Buddha's style to put like all of his meditation. I mean, think about it, right? The Buddha was teaching for 45 years. He was giving one talk on meditation, and what's he doing for the rest of the 45 years? Yeah. So no, he's talking about meditation all the time. Yeah. Yes. One last question. Please.
I'm really confused whether I should focus on my happy,
Yes.
which I actually visualize with right in front of me,
Okay.
or but I actually keep so much. And I'm actually sensitization of what actions that for the feeling. And at the same time, there's also empowerment. So they kind of be molded on. I think it was what the attention on, is it the word itself or is it body sensation or the feeling or coming out of that?
Yes. So that's very human, right? Thought and then boredom and feeling and warm and fuzzy, everything like that. That's great. Awesome. So in the metta meditation, this is something that will hopefully just emerge, you know, become more clear as the retreat continues. But basically, the primarily your attention is with the words, right? Secondarily with the meaning of the words. So you're reflecting on the meaning of the words, so staying very close with the words, and then the feeling of metta. When the feeling of metta is there, then the words are pointing us towards the feeling. But the feeling becomes the primary center of our meditation. Okay? But as long as the feeling of metta is not there, then the words themselves. Okay? Now just with regard to what you're saying about like a feeling of boredom and so on, look, obviously boredom happens in meditation, it's a normal part of it, but just be careful with metta meditation. Don't like push it. Just, you know, do it like a bit till you feel that's enough, and then get up from meditation, do something else, do another meditation, and you feel good and refreshed, and come back again. One of the distinctive features of metta meditation is that the feeling of metta is very shy. And unless the feeling of metta is comfortable to come out into the open, then she won't show herself. She'll just stay shy. So if we're feeling like boredom, anxiety, stress, anything, then she won't come. So just try to do the metta meditations when you feel good, when you feel happy, when you feel relaxed. And at other times, maybe if you're a bit tired, or if you're a bit bored, or something like that, then you can do some walking meditation, some breathing meditation, some vipassana meditation, or something like that. You keep the metta for the times when you're feeling good. Okay? Until you know what you're doing. Like once you've developed the metta and it's quite reliable, then you don't have to worry about that. But especially in the initial stages, then it's important to cultivate, just to make it easy for the metta to show us up. All right, let us wrap up about that. Thank you so much, everybody, for your attention, for your presence. It's just it's wonderful and humbling for me to be here and to share Dhamma with you. And I hope that I can share Dhamma in a way that's meaningful and that helps to support you in your practice. And please remember that I only have one mouth. You have many ears. So that if there's something I say that you don't understand or that isn't relevant or that doesn't fit your case, it's all right. Let it aside. I'm not worried. But we are here to practice. And you are the ones who will practice. You're the ones who will find your way. And you know more about your mind than I do, and than any meditation teacher will ever know. So you have to be your own teacher. Okay, let's finish up.